Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Today I Work On. And today I'm going to work on discussing reverse osmosis systems. And the reason why I'm doing that initially is because we had a problem with our reverse osmosis system on Sunday. And our reverse osmosis system is actually very complicated because it has a big 9-gallon tank and it's actually running to 3 separate faucets. 1 to the sink, separate faucet, 2 to the pot filler, 3 to the refrigerator. On Sunday we had some type of sulfur bacterial bloom and it stunk to high heaven and we couldn't use it, and the tech came out today, and I will go over how reverse osmosis systems get this sulfur bacteria problem in their system and how to rectify it. So that's the first part of today I work on. The second part is I'm going to go to Home Depot and I'm going to start building the shelving unit for this back wall. Now this back wall is about 16 feet long if I come 4 feet out with my desk. Well, my desk, my workplace, whatever I want to call it. And it's a lot of lumber. It's going to be 32 by 4s, 4 sheets of plywood. So it's a lot of lumber to build that, and that's just one section. I still have to build 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more sections in the work on garage. So it's going to take me all day, but I can't wait to get the storage. I'm not going to lie. I'm very excited about that. So let me stop talking and let me start working. That is just not fair right there. For some 3-inch plywood, 21 bucks. If I want to go with a 5/8, it's 31. That is just, it's mind blowing. It used to be 10 bucks a sheet. So I'm going to go over my reverse osmosis system, and right there is the main water feed that goes into the actual reverse osmosis filter system. So we have sediment, carbon block, reverse osmosis, and then total defense. That runs through, and then the last filter is a carbon block filter that goes into this pump. And now this pump feeds the sink, the fridge, and the pot filler. And the tech felt like this line of PEX didn't get sanitized, and that's why we had the foul odor, which I honestly don't believe. So he said that he put chemical, which is the chlorine, in the 9-gallon tank, but I'm not sure. So I just ran the water right now and it smells like chlorine, which is good. So I'm going to do that a couple of times and flush out the system, and hopefully it kills the bacteria. So we'll see what happens. But this is my reverse osmosis system. I really enjoy it, and when I get back into the work on garage, I'll explain why reverse osmosis is a great setup for your house. There's a lot of funky things you read online, but these are the basics of reverse osmosis, and they're pretty factual. You could look it up in the right spots and you could definitely confirm what I'm going to say. The first thing with reverse osmosis is it takes every single mineral out of the water. It's just straight up water. Crystal pure water, 0 imperfections. It tastes amazing because of that. And the only process that happens that changes the actual water is the pH. And the pH in most water is around 7.8 to 8. What happens is the reverse osmosis will take the water and make it a little bit acidic, and it'll bring it down to a 6.8 to a 7.0. So it brings it down a little bit, but I'm going to give you a comparison. Orange juice has a pH of 3. Pretty acidic, right? And we drink it all the time. Beer, everyone drinks beer, and coffee, basically, has pHs of around 4 and under. So your 6.8 to 7 pH in reverse osmosis is completely fine. It's perfectly fine drinking water. It's not alkaline, guess what? Your stomach is full of acid. So does it really matter if you drink water that's a little bit more acidic than a completely alkaline water? Because guess what happens when you drink that alkaline water that's at pH 9? It goes right into your acidic stomach anyway, which has like a pH of 2, I think, or something, 2 or 1, because it has to break down all your food. So you read a lot of things about, oh, reverse osmosis is acidic. It's not really acidic. I think that's complete garbage, in my opinion. So we have it because my wife wanted really clean drinking water, even though we are on well water, and our well water is actually pretty clean for the most part. We also have acid neutralizer that actually brings the pH up, and then it'll go through what's called the big blue filter, which just takes out all the sediment in the water, but we don't have much sediment. Like I said, our water's pretty clear. And then I added a water softener because a water softener is very good for your appliances and your clothes and your fixtures and your plumbing system. It makes everything soft, and it's not hard on the appliances. And in actuality, your appliances and your plumbing system actually last longer because of the softener. Now, with the reverse osmosis, I only have the reverse osmosis going to the pot filler, a separate faucet on the sink, and then a new refrigerator. But the biggest tip with reverse osmosis systems is you cannot run a metal pipe. It has to be a PEX, it has to be a CPVC. Or what happens is, even though that pH is not really acidic, it's just acidic enough. And a lot of communities have this issue where the water's acidic and it will pinhole your copper piping. And that's the biggest downfall with the copper piping, is if your water in your city or town is a little bit acidic, eventually 10, 20, 30 years down the road, once that copper was installed, and I fixed plenty over the years, you will have pinhole leaks, and it's usually around where the flux is. Sometimes it's random, but most of the time it's where the flux is. For some reason, there's a chemical reaction, and the water just eats around the flux, and then you get all those pinholes. So that's the summary for reverse osmosis. I highly recommend it, and if we got a pretty good deal on it, I think it cost us $1,700, but I ran all the plumbing to the reverse osmosis. So it'd probably be a little bit more if you wanted a pretty big system like ours, but you could also do less expensive systems that just go under the sink. So on that note, let me get to cutting all this wood. I'm back from lunch, and I'm back from my house showing you the reverse osmosis system. Now I'm back in the work on garage, and I'm gonna unload all the lumber and start building all these awesome shelving units. So it's gonna be very simple. I'm gonna screw everything together with construction screws that are self-tapping, and it's just gonna be a bunch of 2x4s and a bunch of 3/8 inch plywood. So I will tell you exactly how much material I used in a text, and let me start unloading all this lumber because there's a lot of it. All right, so my first step, I'm gonna set up the shelving. I'm gonna use my laser level, and you can see the laser mark? So that's what I'm gonna use to, I'm blocking it right now, but my butt. But that's what I'm gonna use to make my level lines. So let me get working on making the level lines, and then I'm gonna start cutting some wood. I my initial level line. So, little pro tip, you have a nice level line, you just can measure off of that initial level line and then get the rest of your measurements like on level. You don't need to put the laser level at every section. That's kind of redundant. So that's done, made my lines. Now I'm going to start building the shelving. So let me get to work on that. So a little pro tip, since I'm by myself, I need help holding up this box I just made. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna use screws. The screws are gonna temporarily hold up this piece of shelf I made, and then I'll be able to screw it in. And if you have a corner, that's even better, because I'm gonna throw a screw on this wall. I'm gonna throw actually only 2 screws. One on this wall and one on the back wall, because that's all I really need. And then I could screw it into the 2x4s that are in the wall, and I'll make it nice and level. So you really only need one person. And I'm used to doing so many things by myself. I have tips and tricks for years on how to do things by yourself. So all you need is some screws, and I'll show you. I'm gonna measure 3.5 inches down, because that's how thick the 2x4 is from the line, like so. So 3.5 inches puts me right about there. Now I'm gonna take the screw, and I'm gonna just screw right underneath it, like so. And I missed. That's it, that's gonna hold it up. And I'll do the same thing on the other side of the wall. So same thing, 3.5 inches. So right there. And see if I'm good. I got it. All right, now I'm gonna put up the shelf. So I should go up pretty easily since I have these 2 screws in. Just like that, it's gonna hold. I'll throw in a screw right here. That's one. And then I'll throw in another screw on this side. So we have a screw right there, and I will get underneath. I'll pick it up a little bit. I'll use this bottom screw. I'll just screw this in here. So that's how you do it with no hands. So that one's done. I'll screw the rest of these in now. And then what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna attach the other section to this section so it all holds up. It should hold. I can't see it being a problem. I'm gonna do all those 3 shelving units, and then I'm gonna put my vertical 2x4 braces on. So it should work out pretty well. So let me get to work on that. My first section of shelving is done. Pretty straightforward. Like I said, 21-inch pieces of 2x4 in between. I spaced them every 32 inches, give or take. If it wasn't 8 feet, it was 87 inches actually in the second section. I just split the difference from 96 to 87 and put those in quarters. So the next step is going to be, I'm going to build the rest of, I have 3 more sections to build, and then I'm going to rip the plywood. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm just going to time lapse it and work. So I think you get the gist of what I'm doing, and then I will show you when I put on the last supports. And I only think I need one 2x4 support here, and then one where it meets in the middle. I mean, this is going to be pretty strong. So I want space. I don't want to clutter up my sections of shelving with a bunch of 2x4s. I don't think that makes sense. So worst case scenario, I could always add another 2x4 if I need support. So I want nice, big, wide sections of shelving so it's accessible and I can move stuff around. So let me stop talking and let me start working on this. I have 2 of the 3 sections on. The next one I'm going to do, right now I did a 30-inch section. Well, it's 30 and a half, but minus the 3/8, it'll be a 30. The reason why it's a 30 is because it's going to fit both of my storage bins, because they're 15 inches high, so 15 times 2 is 30, and they'll fit in here perfectly, so I get stacked 2 at a time. The next row over here, I'm going to do 15 and a half, because 15 and a half means I could put my smaller bins up here. And then on the bottom, I did 29, almost 30, because I'm probably just gonna stuff tires, or I don't know what I'm gonna do yet, but I'm gonna stuff something underneath there. But I wanted to make it at least 24 inches tall. So I have 1 more section to do. Unfortunately, my DeWalt impact driver, it's hot. This is the first time ever I've smelt the motor starting to smoke. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna give it a break, and I'm gonna actually cut the pieces of plywood, and I'm gonna set the plywood on these 2 shelves, and then I'll screw those in, and those are only 1.25 inches. So it'll be way easier on the screw gun. So I'm gonna take a break from building the frames, and I'm gonna go and do the plywood. So there's nothing perfect with building anything. You always have to kind of adjust and adapt and zig and zag to keep a project going. And I also don't want to blow up my $200 screw gun. So, let me stop talking and let me start working on these pieces of plywood. Piece to go, but that's probably going to be it for today for this video. I'll continue finishing this shelving system tomorrow, and I will show you how I put the legs on. I'm not putting many legs on. I'm probably only going to put 2 2x4 support legs, and that should be plenty to hold, and I'm going to test it. I'm going to put a ton of weight on it, and you're going to see how strong these shelves are going to be. Even though I went kind of on a minimalist kind of a setup, these 2x4s could hold quite a bit of weight if supported properly. And the other thing is, I used screws. I used these multi-purpose construction screws. They're the Spax brand, and they're self-tapping, and they're the number 10 size, so they're kind of thick by 3 inches. So I have a good 1.5 inches of a really good construction screw going into these shelves. For the actual shelves themselves, I'm going to use just standard construction screws. There'll be 1.25 inch screws. And the reason why I'm doing screws is screws are stronger than nails. A nail doesn't have the strength of a screw. If you try to, you could pull a nail out, but to get a screw out, you need to actually get a screw gun and unscrew it. And there's sometimes using screws is a better method than using nails. In this situation, I went with screws for that reason. I feel like it's a stronger bond, especially going into the wall. So you can't pry out a screw. The screw head will break first, basically, especially with these number 10 screws. So, like I said, that's gonna be it for today. I'm gonna finish up screwing these 2 boards down, and then I will continue tomorrow, and I will see you then.